Hey guys, what's up? I hope everyone's doing well. And in this one, we're going to pick up where we left off with Laravel Herd. Now, I was kind of waiting to do this video because the Herd team has been very busy over the last month or so with a lot of versions and updates. And I believe now that the dust has kind of settled a little bit and Laravel 11 is out, this will be a good time to do this video. I will also leave a link in the description of this video for the changelog if you guys want to check that out. All right, let's take a look at what's new since the last video. So in Generals tab over here, we notice that we have a new IDE settings down here, so we can select different IDEs or your default IDE. So whether you're using PHP Storm, VS Code, Sublime, Emacs, or MacVim, you can select your default IDE here, which is kind of nice. And right above it, the update channel is also new, so you can check the latest stable build, or you can check out the beta if you want to kind of fly by the seat of your pants. Moving on to the Sites tab, we can see that not much has changed really. There is some new processes around installing Laravel applications, setting up a Breeze application or Jetstream application, and I'll walk you guys through that in a moment. So as far as what's been changed here, there really isn't that much. If we jump to PHP, we've already covered this, and install many versions of PHP. Now you don't need them all, but just for the sake of this demo and for the sake of this video, I've kind of just installed them also to show you that you can have different versions that you can swap out to. And down below, some quick insights into configuring your PHP INI file, so max file upload size and the memory limit. So if you check this, any PHP updates or changes, you guys get notified about that and it'll tell you, and you can choose to update to that version if you need to do so for your project. On to the next tab is Node. So this wasn't here before. Now you have the ability to install different versions of Node. Before Herd, you would have to install that manually via terminal or using an exe or just going to the Node site and installing that however they instructed you to do so. So this is actually really nice, but by default, Node also installs the latest version of Node for you. But for whatever reason, and maybe there's a project or something you're working on that you would need to switch to or install major versions of Node, you can come here and install those versions. And you can also go to the bottom here and check update to be notified the same as you would with the PHP updates. You can also be updated with Node updates. And what's also nice is if you're running MVM already on your machine, Herd is actually smart enough not to install it again, but it will use your existing version of NVM on your machine. So for example, on my machine, if I type in MVM and I check the version, I'm using this version for the Node version manager. And if I type in Node and I check the version of Node that I'm using 21.6.2. So you can clearly see that I've manually installed Node on my machine. However, Herd didn't install another version of Node, so it didn't install version 21. As you can see over here, it's still left with the option to install. So whether you do it via the CLI, the command line interface, or whether you do it via the GUI here inside of Herd, graphical user interface, you'll find this is a welcome option to the Herd development stack. And once again, just like PHP, you can isolate different versions of PHP for your project. You can also isolate different versions of Node for your project. Moving along, we'll jump over to the shortcuts area over here. And previous to the video that I did before, you'll see that there are a lot more shortcuts that you can configure. And you can configure however you see fit, depending on what you want to do. So at one point, there was only like 3 or 4 of them. Now we have, many more shortcuts depending on the services that are offered by Herd. And you also have down here the type of terminal that you want to choose, whether it's terminal, iTerm, or warp. And over here, we're going to learn how to use Expose, which is like basically a tunneling application that allows you to share local sites and applications with other people or, clients or whoever, or a friend that you want to show something that you're working on currently in your local machine. So if you're familiar with tunneling, this may sound familiar. If you're interested in another tunneling option, be sure to check out the video on the channel around ngrok, and you guys can see how that's done as well. So the first thing you're going to have to do is install or set up Expose. So you can do that via Composer. So the command is composer require beyond code, and it's expose. Previously, I had to upgrade from version 1 to version 2, so I had to use this, but you guys can get away with just by typing this. And what that will do is install Expose globally. So make sure you do install it globally, so by using the composer global command at the top there. So it looks like we found 2 security vulnerabilities. So you could run a composer audit, and actually, you know what I think it is? I think I just need to do a composer update. So after just doing the quick audit, I'm going to run that command once more and see if we get any more vulnerabilities. And it looks like they're all gone. So sometimes if you get that, and it's a good example, and I'm glad this happened while I'm doing this video, you may be a version behind in Composer or some other library, and when you're installing something that is a little bit newer, it may find some security vulnerabilities and advise you how to fix that. So this is not what this video is for, but it was good to see that. And then we just quickly updated it and then did a quick audit just to make sure everything's working okay. So what you want to do as well, and I mentioned this in a few videos on the channel, so if you check out the Composer series, this will all make sense. But if you're just jumping in right now and you want to follow along, I will just mention you want to export your path to your vendor bin or to your like ZSHRC file or bash file. So in my case, I do have a shortcut for that. Okay, so that command was just an alias that I have, guys, that will pull up my .zshrc file. And what you want to make sure is that Composer is, the path is inside your bash file. You could do something like this. You could export path, and this works as well. So as long as you have this in your path, you should be good to go. And it's always good to save your file and then source it. So if you watch the terminal series, guys, you can source it, but I have a little shortcut that I use for sourcing, and it's just make sure that the file has been reloaded and refreshed and ready to go. All right, so let's just clear that. So we're going to open up a browser and we're going to head to expose.dev, and this will bring up the expose website. And here you'll have to just create an account. And once you've created an account, you'll also receive a token that you can use inside of the terminal to set up expose. So I won't do that because I've already done so, but if you guys want to follow along, you can create your account. Let's do a quick recap. So once you've created your account on the expose.dev website, and you've installed Expose via Composer or via the terminal, then we can go to the next step, which is actually sharing your first site. Now, if you're using Herd, you can simply go to the plus sign over here and to the right, and you can create just a regular Laravel site. And in this case, we're just going to type in our project name as herd.expose. Now, this can be whatever you want, whatever the name of your project is. And I'm going to choose pest here. I'm not going to initialize a Git repository for this one. Herd will conveniently bring you to the directory in which you store your folders. In this case, it's also Herd. So I've already got 2 projects in here, but we're going to select this as a destination. And you can take a look at the installer output if you're interested. And we can open it up inside of the browser right now to see what this will look like. And here we are running our new project. So this is called Herd Expose. I guess I typed exposes for this one, and it's running Laravel 11.06 and it's running PHP 8.3.3. Herd has successfully created a Laravel project for us. We can close this, and if we do a quick refresh inside of our sites directory or the sites tab, we can see that this project will also be created. And in this case, I called it Herd-exposes. I wanted expose, but this is good enough. Now let's bring up our terminal here. And this is no different, guys. So I'm just going to jump into the Herd directory. So this is where I keep my Herd projects. Do a quick list. As you can see, here's Herd exposes. But if you wanted to create a Laravel project, this is no different than creating it via the terminal. So I'm just walking through the Herd process just so we can see how this is done. But in another video in the Laravel series, I'll show you guys a way or many different ways to create a Laravel project. Okay, so let's just jump into this project. So now we're inside of this Herd exposes project. So now we need to activate our token. The token comes from going to the website and creating an account. So once you received your token, you can copy and paste and type in the token using the command expose token. And now that unique token will be associated with your Herd application, and that token will also be associated with your expose account. And now back in the expose tab, you will see the expose token down here. And another way to get to that is just to click here, and this takes you to the site where you can create your account as well. We can now go back into our project and we can say expose. The name of the project that we'd like to share is Herd exposes, in my case, .test. Now, whether you're using a pro version or the regular version, this will still be the same. So see this URL here. This is the public URL for our project and it's shared with expose. And then this is the secure URL that is shared with our project using expose. And if we were to jump to our dashboard inside of our browser, we can see that we are currently sharing this site with an active tunnel. And in my case, the site's name is this. This is the active tunnel that I'm using. This is the shared host and how long ago it was shared and who it was shared by. And we're going to copy this URL and we're going to paste this in the browser. And this will be the URL that you would type in or share with a client or someone you're sharing this with. Now we're going to jump back to terminal. And if you wanted this on a device, you would copy this URL and it would generate a QR code for you. So now you're currently in the Local Herd dashboard. And what this will do is it'll generate the QR code that you need to maybe scan it onto a device, and then you can see that on the device and see how that's working. And you can maybe test your site for reactivity or responsiveness or whatever you're doing via a tablet or some other device. So in order to show you that this is actually working or how this works, I'm just going to turn on my iPhone over here and I'm going to scan this QR code. And after scanning this, it'll open the application on your default browser inside of whatever device you are using or whoever you give this QR code to. You can literally scroll through and see that, your application will behave or act like it should on a device or tablet, or your client or whoever is looking at this can have a nice way to see the application from your local environment on their device using an active tunnel. And that's kind of nice. And it's great for testing and making sure that your site is doing what you expect it to do on mobile devices or look how you expect it to look on other devices. I'm going to close all this, but before I do, I'm going to mention that this is not for everybody. This is a skill that you can use for real world applications and just figuring out how to share your application in a way that makes sense for you, your client, or whoever you're building this for. So if you feel a little overwhelmed and this is a lot, I don't want to go into the full nuances and everything that is involved with actually running Expose. That would require a series in itself or a bunch of other videos. But I do want you to understand how this works inside of Laravel Herd and what the potential is for using something like this. Before I get into the pro services, I want to cover one more thing that is available for individuals or people that choose not to get the pro version of Herd and are looking to use databases with Herd. So I just want to mention that Herd Pro allows you to spin up integrated database services, or you can use the free tool. So in order to do that, we need to go and grab and install Dbngin. This is a tool made by the guys at Table Plus, and you can download this for your Mac. So you can just download the DMG file and install this service. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the installation. It's pretty straightforward, but once you download the service, it's as simple as turning on the service or creating the service that you want, whether it's Redis, whether even if you're using a homebrew service via MySQL or something like that, and you can run this service and it's 100% free. So you can quickly set up and manage multiple database servers with multiple versions and ports. So in my case, I'm using Table Plus. So if I was just to double click on the MySQL service that I created, you'll see that it'll open up my version of the database manager, which is Table Plus. So it's really nice, and you can clearly see the databases that you're creating. So in this case, we have two projects inside of Laravel Herd. I have L11 and I have L11 Jet, which do require a database. You can switch between many databases within your database manager. And this is all running using Dbngin at the moment. So if you guys do need a way to manage databases and you do not have the pro version of Herd, you can install and set up Dbngin and you can go from there. So that's a good alternative, and you don't have to get pro to do that, and that works very well. All right, so let's talk about the pro services. I'm just going to jump to herd.laravel.com and click on Herd Pro. As you can see, there is the pricing model that is set up. So for Herd, the previous video I did, there wasn't any pro version at the time, but now there is a pro version. So you still get PHP Nginx, the DNS mask, and Node version right out the gate, and it's free. So for those of you who are looking for something with a more integrated experience, you can purchase the pro version of the license, and then they do have team evaluations as well. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the pro version of Laravel Herd and some of its features that are available if you do decide to go that route. So as a quick recap, just remember that you don't actually need the pro version. You can still get away with just using Herd and setting up your environment. Or if you have another process like I described in previous videos on this channel, there's many ways to get your environment set up and get things going and start using Laravel or creating projects within PHP or whatever you're working on. So these are just some of the options that I want to show you guys, and I will definitely give you a little bit more on how some of the pro features work in the next video. So take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.